Hello.
How's it going?
Not too bad. Tired.
I've got a top 20 all set and ready to go.
What's going on here?
What do you got?
I got the Flintstones in my face right now.
Damn straight, that's me and Eric. It's the
Barney
and Fred.
I didn't know if that was a glitch or something. Okay.
No, yeah, that's I just put it on so I could start it early, maybe drag a few people because sometimes YouTube doesn't send notices until after I start.
Oh, okay. Why are you coming in so soft? I can barely hear you.
I have no idea, honestly. My gain has not changed or anything, so.
Remember, you did change it. Was that last night or the night before?
I didn't touch it. I know better.
There you go. There you go. Now you're good.
All right.
Okay. I've actually seen 3 movies this year, so I got a top 3. All right.
All right, and then when we do the bottom, you just flip the switch, and you got a bottom 3.
Yeah, I mean it's. Yeah.
There you go. And that is the way it works. I think I've actually decided. When I turned on my mic, I am now live, by the way, and I've been sitting here for 3 minutes talking to you guys while we're freaking going. So let me get this and let's introduce properly and do all that. I am so unprofessional at this. Even though I've been doing this now for a long time. Hey, Jim, what's up? Tonight we're going to count down the best. I guess tomorrow we could do the worst. Or you said you don't have worst. I don't understand. If you've seen 20 films and or if you've seen 30 films and 20 of them made your top 20, even if they're great, the other ones are the worst ones you've seen.
Yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily classify it bad. And in this case, I've not seen, well, I mean, I probably have seen 30 odd movies this year, but not all of them were 2023. And so, as I say, I was able to cobble together a list of movies that came out in 2023. Defined as movies from our good friends at Flickchart. So,
okay. I have seen, this year, I've seen 132 movies.
Whoa.
And I have listed them all through. I will be doing maybe a live stream for members, that kind of thing or something. But I've seen them. So God damn it, I'm going to get content. I'm going to go all through the entire goddamn thing. Because some of these movies, I need validation on why I've seen them. That's
well, I mean, I can see that you're already trolling for clicks with the title of the stream.
What did I proof? Oh, I didn't. I forgot I put that proof 2023. Actually, I thought that would be a great title for a series I'm going to start doing. And it's going to start. I want to start and just with the year of my birth, 1970, and go all the way up until. And I was going to call it Proof 1970, Proof 1971, Proof 19. Just go right on through. So I figured, okay, we're doing 2023. Let's hit it now. All right. So there you go.
Sure.
Yeah, I thought that's actually a pretty good title for a series. Proof. This is the greatest year in movies, and we're going to prove to you. There's no way I can convince you guys that 2023 is the best year in movies. But you know what? I did manage to see about 50 movies I liked this year out of the 130. So there you go. Less than half. I don't know. I don't remember where I stopped, but I figure what the heck. Do you have 20 or do you just have 10? How are you?
I've got 10 because I cannot identify enough.
Since I turned on the mic early before we could talk about the rules, here are the rules.
This is all just the pre-show behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
Excited to.
Here are the rules. It's going to be like this. If I've got something at number 20 that you have at number 1, just make one sentence comment, and that we're going to be hearing from you more later. If if we both agree and it like that, or if you do have a comment and it's something I'm talking about, you make it short. If it's something you talk about, I make it short. That way we can get through these.
Guffaw and laugh at your
Oh, and I'm sure you will, because you are an evil bastard.
As I told VENKMAN today, I was in a bit of a running comment war with some a-hole on YouTube comments, because there was a video that I that was posted that was interviews with some of the people behind Echo, and I was like, this is just proof of how disappointing Disney is, and this guy's
we'll get to that fight when the TV show comes on.
Yeah.
All right, so I actually had 22 A minus to A's, and I'll start it real quick with number 22, which is Talk to Me. This was actually, from what I understand, done by YouTubers who just said, hey, I think we've got an idea for a movie, and it's about this hand that when you hold it and you say a certain phrase, lets you connect with the dead. And it actually turned out to be really cool and really creepy and a good, solid horror film. I was quite pleasantly surprised at this one. I wouldn't, if I were to do a, hey, that movie surprised me, I don't know if this is the one I would put on there, and you would definitely laugh at me if I did tell you the big surprise of the year, but definitely recommend this. I don't know where it's streaming right now, or if it's just on Prime for buying. My number 21 is on Apple TV, and it's called Still, a Michael J. Fox movie. And it is basically him talking about his life from basically birth on up to Parkinson's and after. And it's an incredibly inspirational story. It really is. This is a man who didn't give up, and he still hasn't. He understands what he's going through, and he tells the story. It's just so freaking cool to see him act and react this way to his Parkinson's and try to be an inspiration to others who may be going through it. And then, of course, it's a really cool tale just watching how his career went. I mean, for a while, Michael J. Fox was the biggest freaking star in the 80s. I mean, he was seriously something. Excuse me for this one. I didn't immediately have anything, so I used the thumbnail for my video. That's why there's writing. But my number 20 came out all the way in January. It's a Guy Ritchie movie that deserves more love and respect, and it's called Operation Fortune. I titled it Too Cool to Review because this movie is just too fucking cool. It really is. The dialogue is on point. The action is on point. Hugh Grant this year is the freaking man, dude. Seriously. If you haven't seen this, I think this is on Prime or one of the channels.
It's either I think Prime's got it. I think
Paramount
HBO might have it.
Is that it? Okay.
Well, because I know that I watched it not too long ago on one of the movie channels, because I saw it pop up. I was like, oh, cool. And watching it the second time, let's just say we'll talk about this one a little bit later.
All righty, let me move to my number 19. And we have a movie called You Are So Not Invited to My Bar Mitzvah. By the way, this is not the only Jewish girl coming of age story that's on this list. This is the one that's directed, I think it's directed by Adam Sandler, and it stars his daughters. It is, it's one of those where you watch it and go, wow, that is a true joy to watch. That was just a lot of fun. It was funny. I think it goes through a lot of stuff that everybody, whether you're a boy or girl or whatever, that you could relate to, because it's a lot of high school drama, high school stuff along those lines. And it was, once again, it was a surprise to me. I just said, okay, it's an Adam Sandler film. Let me put it on, and was riveted all the way through. Speaking of riveted, though, this one might actually be on your list as well. It is a Netflix movie by David Fincher called The Killer. Now, I thought this movie was a comedy, because all throughout this, you got this serial killer played by Michael Fassbender, and he's talking about how professional and how meticulous and how he pays attention to every. Oh shit! It went wrong. That is every damn kill almost in this entire thing. He's talking to you about how professional he is, and then he fucks up some way. Hey, it's like me at YouTube. So there you go. At number 17, another movie I was surprised by, because I gave up on this franchise with this. I watched the second movie in the first 4 of them, and I was a drop. I'm good. But Hunger Games: The Ballad of Birds and Snakes, excellent prequel. It tells a great story. I feel sorry for that girl. She's talented, but she opened her mouth the wrong way, and people are going to run her over for it and probably say everything sucks by her, that whether it does or not. But this is a lot of fun. This is a good action film, but it's not as fun or good as what are we on? 2019, 18, 17. My number 16 movie, which was Sisu. This movie's freaking brutal, dude.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because so I was going through a thing. I looked at like 200 plus movies today, just trying to go, okay, which ones do I remember watching or whatever, and that wasn't on the list. So I have a feeling that probably technically it's like original release date was 2022, but it didn't
probably
here until 2023.
Yeah, it was released in America in 2023.
Yeah,
I'm an American, so I'll go with it.
I will say, if I had remembered, this would have been in my top 10. I saw it just a few weeks ago because it was finally out on streaming, and it was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
I know, right? This is a movie you can get tired watching. It really is. It is brutal. It's bloody. They were saying, I think in the previews, they're saying it's John Wick if he's from Finland or something like that. And I could see it. This, once again, there's a scene where he's hung by the neck and he's trying to shake himself off of this sign that he's attached to.
God,
and he gets a nail into his leg, and you just watch it tearing right. It's like, oh, I can't look away, but I want to so much. It's just so freaking brutal. So there you go. That was my number 16. Let's get to the next. What was that? 2019, 18, 17, 16. My number 15 is another coming of age Jewish girl movie. It's based on a book I loved as a kid called Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. This came, nobody saw it but me. It left. But it really is. It's acted well. It's written very well. I loved it. So it's at number 15. I watched the next one. I watched what was it? I'm still counting. 2019, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14. My number 14, I watched last night for the first time. I like to watch others' top 10s. They say, oh, that one was great. That one's, well, I didn't see that one. Let me see. Are they right? Are they wrong? This is a movie that is so freaking timely. This is one I think a lot of people should see, especially if you're Black. You need to see this movie. Basically, it's, and I see a lot of people pushing back on the narrative now, where it's like, don't call me African American. I'm an American. How about you let us tell a tale that's not of the struggle? In this case, you have a writer, and he's a science fiction writer. So he puts out this book, and nobody's buying it. And everybody's telling him, well, you're writing the wrong kind of stories. And when he's at this convention, he sees a big crowd going into a hall where this Black woman wrote a book called, and I'm paraphrasing, I can't quite remember, but it was like Weasel from the Ghetto or something like that. So it's like digging real deep into that just urban, what every white person, every rich white person on Twitter might think of Black people. That's what this woman's catering to. And he's angry about that because he's written an actual literature, and he decided, screw it. And he writes the most pandering story about Black people in the hood. And everybody goes nuts over it. And so he's got to act like he's somebody's not. That's why the poster is showing him in a hoodie and the sideways hat that's overlaid on his suit. And it's all about the identity that you put forward versus the who you really are. Really, really good film. My number 12 was A Haunting in Venice. It's I'm enjoying these Hercule Poirot. I think, I don't know. I've always kind of stumbled over the name, but I enjoy this franchise. This one did not do well, much like a lot of movies this year at the box office. But man, I hope they don't stop making these movies. This is a franchise I look forward to in every iteration. It's a good mystery movie. It's a whodunit where you can figure out as it goes as well. Kind of in the same vein as those Knives Out movies, except for, of course, this is Agatha Christie. And let's see, this is number 12, I think, the next one, right? 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12.
Keeping your count.
I'm asking myself there, dude. Okay, my number 12 was actually not, I don't, this was a surprise, only that I knew I was going to enjoy it, but I didn't think I was going to enjoy it that much, and it's Dungeons and Dragons. This is a movie that I've seen multiple times this year, and every time I've seen it, it's just gone up the ladder. It really has. This is absolutely a great adventure story. They don't make them like this very much. Even when they had the chance to make an adventure story with the greatest adventure character of all time, they fucked that up, and you got to go to Dungeons and Dragons for this. And the one that barely missed the top 10 is Wes Anderson's movie about death called Asteroid City. I love this film. I'm a Wes Anderson fan anyway. I love the aesthetic. I love the look. And I was watching this movie. I'm like, and then it occurred to me, you have a character, his father, he's played by Jason Schwartzman. He comes into Asteroid City, and you find out that his wife died. And it's all about that. At one point in time, they actually do see an alien. It comes down and it takes the asteroid that big crater was made by, and it leaves. And after that, and that's when it realized, okay, that's what this movie's about. Because after that, you get the 5 stages of grief done by the other characters. And it's done so subtly that you could pass this movie by as just something quirky, but it really is about loss. It's about death and how to deal with it and so forth and so on. Really deep, really good movie. Didn't quite make the top 10, but that was my number 11. Let's move on to the top 10. What?
We'll talk about that one a little bit later.
Bit later. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. We'll go into a little more detail, but okay, I guess we'll start. What's your number 10?
Yeah, well, I'll just throw out a couple of quick honorable mentions first. And first one I'll throw out, again, you talk about kind of a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
A super pleasant surprise for me was Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, Five Nights at Freddy's. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, it was on streaming. I had nothing to do when on the day it came out, and I was like, okay, I'll sit down and check this out. And expecting it to be more like a Pooh, Blood and Honey or the awful Banana Splits movie. It turned out really good. I know some people, I think, wanted more of a horror element, more slasher type stuff, but as kind of like this weird little psychological thriller thing, I thought it worked really, really well. And the other one I'll just mention quickly was the Venture Brothers movie. For us huge fans of the Venture Brothers, the show that was on Cartoon Network, we finally got a movie that kind of helped tie up a lot of storylines. It was very satisfying. I enjoyed it, but not quite enough to make the top 10. So my first movie here for the top 10, whoops, not there. Where is it? Oh, come on. I was trying to be clever and come up with movie posters here. Here we go. Number 10 is Attack of the Doc. So what this is, it's a documentary about G4 and Attack of the Show done by one of the people that was on Attack of the Show, Chris Gore, who you might know runs a Film Threat. He did the DVD and movie review show. This is a love letter to anybody that was, formative pop culture years in the 2000s. And and through this documentary, not only do you get to kind of see, the behind the scenes and some of the things that happened, but it's also really just illustrative of basically Attack of the Show, which was kind of like the centerpiece show on G4, rose at the same time that pop culture exploded. Some of the things that they're known for is they were the first show to broadcast live from Comic-Con. So they were there through all the years where it exploded from just being a big comic convention into becoming the biggest pop culture convention in the world. Same with E3, you know, sadly, RIP. E3 used to just be this like industry level thing for game companies, and then it exploded and became what it was. So you get to see really just kind of this rise and fall. And as somebody who loved G4, watched Attack of the Show and the other shows on G4 religiously, it was just, you know, pleasant to review. So that's my top 10, my number 10. You're on mute.
And Cartoons and Comics says his number 10 was Merry Christmas, the Little Bat. He was surprised how good it was. That is on tomorrow's countdown for me.
I have no idea what that is. Oh, is that Batman?
Yeah, it's a child. It's a children's cartoon. I don't think it'll make the worst 10 or 20. Now you only have 3, so we're gonna meet you up a little later there, right, Jay?
Yes.
All righty. My number 10. I've never owned one of these. I saw people tapping on them. I was like, okay, I guess that's better than a phone or something. But the movie was called Blackberry. Now, I know this one dude, the guy from Everything is Sunny in Philadelphia or whatever it's called.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's it. He's been getting write-ups because he was really freaking good in this movie. But to me, go with Jay Baruchel, man. He transformed. This was beyond. It's so well acted, so well written. If the Academy was fair and actually went back before December, I think there should be award nominations, at least mentions. At the very least, mentions. This movie is so freaking cool, so freaking good, and it tells us. I never owned one, didn't really know, but I love the story. It was done very well. And you can actually see the rise and exactly why they fell. If this was telling if this is an accurate history right here of the Blackberry. But if you get a chance, I do believe this is on HBO Max. They added some scenes to it and have it as kind of a mini series now. It is most definitely worth a watch. So check that out if you can.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out. For some reason, I thought it was on Apple, or I thought it was on one of the streaming sources.
Yeah.
Now.
I think it's on HBO. They're kind of bleeding for me a little bit, but yeah, that's that one. All right, what is your number 9, sir?
So my number 9. Let me pull up my share screen again here, and my number 9 is a movie that came out in Showtime late this year. And it's one kind of near and dear to my heart, and it's an excellent adaptation of the King Mutiny Court Martial. I remember reading this in drama class in high school, the original. I've seen various iterations, especially Jose Ferrer and Humphrey Bogart version, and this is just a very, very well done version where they're able to update it. Where in this case, Captain Queeg is, commanding a ship during, I think it's Iraq or Afghanistan, somewhere in there. So it's been brought up to modern times. But excellent performances. Kiefer Sutherland is very, very good as Captain Queeg, which you have to be in order for the version to be good. So I highly recommend if you like court dramas. This is one definitely to check out.
Okay. My number 9 is it was a quirky. It's on VOD at this point in time, pay-per-view, like we used to call it. Now it's VOD, and it's about Nick Cage, who he starts showing up in people's dreams. It's called Dream Scenario. So, and it's not like he's just showing up in his family. People around the world are dreaming about him. And he enjoys it. It's all about basically kind of like fame, internet fame and such, because at first people think it's quirky and it's cool and they like him. But then all of a sudden in their dreams turn to nightmares as he's trying to kill them. He's attacked people with knives and people start hating him. and attacking him, and he's like, "You dreamed it. It's not me." It really is a weird sci-fi movie that is, once again, all about like instant internet fame that some people would get when they're memed or something, and how you would handle it. I gotta tell you something. Nick Cage, I've always enjoyed his movies, but he just stepped up, man. A lot of his films, you might think they're quirky. You might think maybe they're just too weird, too strange, or just kind of silly and stupid, like Willy's Wonderland or something. But ever since he owed money and he had to take anything for $5, the man's been doing some awesome movies. And this is one right here. Once again, it's on VOD right now, but if you get a chance, check it out. It is absolutely worth the freaking price of admission. There you go. Let me see if anybody has anything else for number 9 yet. Nope. The only thing I ever watched on G4 was the late night anime. Oh, is that Aeon Flux and everything?
No, that was MTV. No, G4 had other kind of late night animes. They also had Code Monkeys, which was kind of a hilarious, just very lewd cartoon show back in the day that looked like 8-bit animation.
Okay, so what's your number 8?
My number 8. So if you want to pull it back up, if you haven't closed it, is Operation Fortune. This was probably the first movie of the year that I just had an absolute blast with. So if you're familiar with Guy Ritchie at all, one of the things about most of his movies is just style. And this just oozed style. I almost like to call it, it's the modern version of his Man from U.N.C.L.E. Movie. Jason Statham's excellent in it. Hugh Grant, as you say, steals every scene that he's in. He
really does.
Josh Hartnett is really good in his role as kind of the pampered movie star who suddenly gets thrust in this and has to navigate his way through. And Aubrey Plaza is good in it.
She's one of those actresses I could watch read the phone book.
Yeah,
she's hot as hell and she's funny as hell, so it just makes it better.
Yeah, it was just an absolute blast to watch this movie.
Yep. Fun times. It really is just that's it. It's a blast. It is just sincerely a great time at the movies. So there you go. Okay, what are we on? We're on number 8. I did Dream City. Now, a lot of people have this as their number 1 movie. I say it was really good. I gave it an A. It deserves to be in the number 8 spot. And that is Oppenheimer. Part of the Barbenheimer twins. I actually changed my mind on Barbie, as a matter of fact. I watch it again. It is a great men's rights movie. Oppenheimer, man, I didn't think I would be into it as much because 3 hours. Oh my gosh. I didn't think I could do it, but it told the story very well. A lot of it I already knew because I used to read biographies a lot. And I saw this movie a long time ago called Fat Man, Little Boy. And it just got me interested in the story. So I knew a lot of what was going on, but it's only a testament to the director and to the actors if you know the story and you still are riveted. If you're still just glued to the screen. One of the only other movies I could think I've ever done that where I'm like, okay, I know what's going to happen was Apollo 13. I would say Titanic, but I didn't know the characters. So what was going to happen with the characters? But Apollo 13 was the same way. You know, it's one of these movies that it was just a blast. But I think Cillian Murphy is going to get a nomination. It would be a freaking crime if this isn't one of those films with 11 or 12 different nominations at the Oscars. And it would be good because finally we'll have an Oscar movie that people have seen. I loved also I think it's kind of funny that the new CG is no CG. Like people were excited. Oh, wow. Yeah, they did that with CG for a while. And now it's like, yeah, let's stop. And because this movie is all practical, including the nuclear blast. Amazing. Freaking amazing film. But once again, number 8.
Yeah. I have not. It's one of the movies on my to see list.
Oh, so we're not talking about it in a little bit. Okay.
Nope.
All right.
Nope. Yeah. So there might be a few conspicuous absences. I just haven't had the opportunity to get around to it. But my number 7 is a quirky little movie that I really, really enjoyed, and saw late in the Halloween season.
Okay.
If you can put up the,
Oh,
share
okay.
there. And it's totally killer. So this is on
Totally killer,
Amazon
dude.
Prime. I had, as it says there, from Blumhouse producers, Happy Death Day. There's definitely a lot of Happy Death Day vibes to it, because basically what happens is the girl there, front of the screen, her mom was the lone survivor of this slasher attack back in the I guess it would have been 1980s. And she's hanging out with a friend, and of course we get a little foreshadowing that her best friend is working on a time machine, which okay, whatever, it's some things to go with. But then suddenly, with this publicity of the 30th anniversary coming up, that the slasher comes, a slasher comes back, kills her mom. She's distraught. Goes to her friend, finds out, with the time machine, and says, "Hey, I can go back and I can stop the attacks." And she winds up going back to 1987, and that's where really the fun begins. And part of my enjoyment with this movie is she is everything that you think of a 2023 teen, with all the pronouns and all the other political correct nonsense. She goes back into 1987, and they do such a great job of just constantly taking her down peg after peg, at least for me, because I remember the 80s, and I just enjoyed watching her just be like, oh, you should use the pronouns. Like, what? Oh, go away, you.
There was another movie that came out that I thought was going to, it ended up being in the middle somewhere, like in the C's. But there was another one that came out. I thought, oh, this is going to be wonderful. It was called Old Dads with Bill Burr.
Oh,
it is the most woke piece of shit. This, however, was a lot of fun. I did see that. It didn't make my top 10 or 20, but
I had an absolute blast with this. And just wanted to mention real quickly, because you mentioned American Fiction. That's definitely a movie on my must-see list. I'm not sure if it's actually playing out here yet or not.
Yeah.
But when I saw the trailer, I loved it. And a lot of almost what it reminded me of is, if you remember the one character from Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
The other comic book creator that puts on the facade at that time of like a Malcolm X style guy,
right?
But behind the scenes is very polite,
the gayest of the gay. Yeah.
That's right. He's gay as well.
All right.
It's like, oh, cool. We're getting a whole movie of that.
Now, you guys know I am a superhero movie simp.
You are.
Yes, I am the easiest mark.
Everybody.
I am absolutely the easiest superhero movie mark. Seriously, you can hear him trying to tell jokes, but you just don't got it there, man. This is the only superhero movie that made my list this year. I am not. I just did a up to top 20 and no superheroes. This is the only superhero movie on the list this year, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3.
I'm surprised that wasn't the one I was thinking of. It was going to be.
Which one did you think?
I thought you were going to say Shazam 2.
No, actually, that's not even the second best in my opinion this year. All right, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it nailed it. It told a great story. I like the fact that they really did take time and focus on characters, especially the Rocket character. He was the emotional crux this time around. I like the fact that there was no romantic connection between Star-Lord and Gamora, just because Star-Lord wanted it and he's the lead character. There is just so much good in this. I've seen the pushback. Everybody liked it when it came out, and then now it's like, oh yeah, well, it's not. I'll shut up. It is a fantastic film, well acted, well directed, a great send. If this is it for Guardians of the Galaxy, great send off. If they continue with the new characters under a different director, I have a feeling a lot of you guys are going to be saying the same thing I say about the Star Wars. Yeah, there's 3 movies. That's all you need. But I love this film. I love the set pieces, the action, the story. But what really freaking pushed it was the characters. They just freaking nailed them, except for Warlock. But we're not going to talk about that. All right, there you go. That's my number. That's my number 7.
Yeah.
What is your number 6? Oh, well, hold on. Let me get some comments and then we'll
get some comments here because
my number 10. Okay, only a number 10 has showed up. No 9s, 8s, 7s, or 6s. Oppenheimer for Best Picture, Best Director, says Ash. I hope Shazam 2 isn't on anyone's top 10. Apparently not ours. So yeah. Like I said, it's something for me to only have one superhero movie on a top 10 end of the year list.
Well, I'm curious. So, what was your
Blue Beetle?
Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle is the second best this year, and then I liked. And by the way, there's 13 comic book movies out this year, but those, we're talking about the big ones. Blue Beetle, and then The Flash, and then I haven't seen Aquaman yet. Maybe that's the best movie of the year. I have no. Maybe that's the best movie. Okay, hold on. Maybe Aquaman. I'm sorry, I can't do it. All right. Maybe it'll be okay. All right. Oh, so there you go. Your introduction was a sneeze.
Yeah, no, my number 6 is John Wick 4. I know some people have, again, a little soured on it. I certainly make the argument, and I agree that it's probably about 15-20 minutes too long. That especially, that the stairway scene goes on.
The stairway scene is 15 minutes too long, not much less the movie.
But overall, it's just a really good, fun film. And there are just some of the most amazing set pieces in terms of action that I've ever seen. Specifically, I mean, the car chase through Paris. And then of course the over the top scene that is almost something out of like a top down perspective.
It's a 1990s video game.
Yeah, is just fantastic, and you can't say enough. I mean, Keanu Reeves knows exactly how to play John Wick, and of course everything is helped by the fact that he is doing the majority of the stunts, especially pretty much anything with the gunplay, because he is as much of an expert in Hollywood as anybody in terms of using a firearm. And that's just what makes it special, because you can get camera angles and close-ups with him that you can't do with almost any other actor, and that's what makes it special. So yeah, my number 6. I love the franchise.
You know what I think is funny is that when this movie came out, I was the one that was harder on it than you are. And we're going to be talking about this a little bit later. All right. So my number 6 is kind of a cheat, but occasionally AMC will have what they call the Fathom events, where it might be a week or 2 weeks run. This had a 2-week run. I saw it with my daughter, and I swear to gosh, this is one of the most fun times I've had in a theater. And it is Spirited Away live. They had filmed the play. They put it on. It was running. It ran for 2 weeks. And shit films run for 2 weeks, so why not special events as well? And it was fantastic. It was fun watching the puppetry. And at some points in time, just stage crew were handling things out in the open and everything. You just got to ignore them and watch. Kind of like Avenue Q, where they're moving the puppet around, but you watch the puppet, not the person moving around. And it goes through the movie. They were able to do a stage film or stage show of that movie, which has all these fantastical elements. And as much as I loved watching the play, I also liked watching how they did this as a movie, and I watched the movie, but I like seeing how they did it as a play. Well acted, well crafted. And like I said, it was just plain fun. It really was. And it's Spirited Away. I mean, how much can you hate Spirited Away unless you're completely heartless?
Oh yeah, no, it's one of my top 2 Miyazaki movies, either that or Howl's Moving Castle. And
I'm the same way. Those are my 2 favorite as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had not heard of this, and wish I did. I hope maybe at some point it's going to be available for find it on streaming or on physical. Because I'm really, the way you talk about it, I'm really curious to catch it.
Yeah, it is so much fun. I got to admit, I have not yet seen A Boy and the Heron or Suzumi, which I actually got a Crunchyroll subscription in order to watch that movie, and I still haven't watched Suzumi.
No,
So
it's okay. I haven't either.
yeah. All righty.
I'm too
What are
busy
we
watching
on?
other anime.
Yeah, we're on number 5.
Number 5. Okay, might be a little controversial because again, I know it. Both didn't do as well in the box office, and it's also had some different reviews. But for me, overall, number 5 is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. Again, similar to John Wick in that it's probably about a half hour too long. But at least for me, it was a fascinating movie. Again, some really interesting set pieces. Despite the length, I was never bored with the movie. And hopefully, when we get the next part in, unfortunately, I think it's 2025, it'll be the fitting conclusion to the series.
Okay. That's it.
Well, yeah. I mean,
all right.
Well,
yeah, you can rest assured we're talking about that later. Okay, 2023, as much as the big movies that were supposed to be the big, somebody called them flopbuster, and I think that's kind of fun. Unfortunately, Dead Reckoning was one of, but we'll get to that. Another thing that happened this year is 3 became the new 2 as far as length. And it seemed like there were quite a bit that kind of skirted that 3-hour one. And I got to tell you, I just didn't have it in me for a long time. I was like, I want to see Napoleon, but it's so long. I want to see this. And another one, I said, okay, you know what? I'll watch a little bit of this movie tonight. I'll finish it tomorrow. And I'm talking, I started this thing at 2:00 and I stayed up the whole freaking night watching it. It's called Killers of the Flower Moon by, this is Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, his new muse. Robert De Niro is too old, but he's in this now. It is, it's not a whodunit. They tell you flat out, Robert De Niro is the bad guy in this right at the beginning. And he's talking Leonardo DiCaprio's character into doing a whole bunch of horrible things to basically his wife's people in order for them to take their land, which has oil in it. And it's not so much it's just why, especially this character, he's so not mindless, but he has no will. Anything anybody tells him to do, he does, and he goes after and does things because Robert De Niro is telling him to, and it just keeps getting worse as it goes. It's not a movie I think I'll be revisiting, but for that one shot, it is amazing. There are just some movies like that. They're fan freaking like Schindler's List. Great freaking movie, but it's not exactly one I put on every month, But there you go. My number 5, Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, and Leonardo.
Okay.
That's a typical one. Everybody's got that one on their list this year, like Oppenheimer.
Yeah, well, eventually I'll probably get around to seeing it because I do like
worth it.
Scorsese, but the 3, I'll fully admit the 3-hour length and it's like the subject matter. Okay.
All right.
So my number 4 is one of your also rans.
My number 11.
Yeah. And that is, Asteroid City. I like to jokingly refer to it as it's the most Wes Anderson movie.
That is never Wes Anderson.
Yeah. I had such a blast seeing this, and it's just the setting. There's nothing like a Wes Anderson movie. Other people have tried to copy it, copy his style, but just the set direction, the acting, the language in the script, and then the bizarre twists that completely come out of left field that make you question what exactly are you watching. That the story is not exactly, possibly, maybe the story that you're listening to. Just made for a really delightful time at the theater.
Yeah, the whole thing, the premise can drive. I would think this is, you said it's the most Wes Anderson. It's also the most it's almost the most niche, because this is a movie that is a play. This oversaturated color thing that you see is the play, and then you have a backstage of the play, like their preparation and all that. And then you have a radio show talking about things that happen in the backstage. So it's these three layers that are trying to weave together a story. And if you pay attention, it fits. This is not a casual view at all. But, and once again, if you do, it is a very layered story as well. But yeah, I agree with you. It definitely is a top 10 film.
And talk about too, something that we other people have talked about, especially the last several years, so often, of the bad dad trope that we've seen in Hollywood, that movies and TV especially, somehow seems incapable of telling a story with a good dad or somebody that's trying. And in this case, we get the story where it starts out like, oh, it seems like he's, a jerk of a dad. But as you talk about, we find out, part of it is dealing with loss. And ultimately, he is a good dad. He is trying in his own way. He is trying. And
his is the character that can't cope. Like I said, you see everybody dealing with loss. If at first, of course, him and his wife, but his character is supposed to find reconciliation over the wife. But if you watch and you're paying attention to the rest of the story, the writer of the play, who the actor was lovers with, had died. So the character of the actor couldn't cope with the death. So as everybody else is coming to grips and realizing what's going on, and they're getting their reconciliation, he runs off stage because he hasn't yet dealt with the death of in the real life, and not on the play. Like I said, there's layers. You got to watch this movie, but it is excellent. Yeah. It is excellent.
But just if you talk about just that top layer, though, just the relationship between him and his son and his two daughters is just something, really touching, at times heartbreaking, but it never paints him as a stupid dad or just
never
bad, and that's one of the really great heartwarming things with this. And just, we're talking about Wes Anderson. Have you had a chance to see the Wes Anderson short films that are on Netflix?
I have not. I've heard they're pretty good. I didn't know they were Wes Anderson. I'll check those out when I can.
Yeah, they're definitely worth a watch. A couple of them are a little better than others. But yeah, all dealing with kind of like various Indian, in this case, the country of India, tales and stories.
In the comments, I still haven't seen Aquaman, says Ash. I hope it's good.
Good for you.
And let's see, Spirited Away is an amazing film. It is. I guess I got to hit that. There we go. Let's see. Tehillim, hello, shalom, and good to see you all. Japan does stage plays of their animes and have done in the past. Yes, including My Hero Academia. I was wowed. I really was. The Spirited Away. If I hope it comes to VOD, so people can actually see it. And I wish it would go to DVD. I would love to buy a copy of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I probably would watch it as much as I do or did the original one. All right. And that was your number 4?
Yes.
So my number 4, and we're getting to Jay. Jay had 3, so we'll let him go first on the next one. That's why he's been quiet right here. You're welcome to comment on what we are talking about if you had seen any, but
I haven't.
Well, here's the thing. This year, the best action was movies that would make you tired. And in the past, there have been a few, I would say both Raid movies are just films that when you watch them, it's like, okay, I need a break. I just watched The Raid. I'm going to take a nap. It's one of those that is so active and so visceral. It just, like I said, you got to take a nap after. I found out that this movie was directed by stunt coordinators. It's called Extraction 2. Stars Chris Hemsworth. It's on Netflix. I liked the first one. And the first one was one of those movies too, where it's like, God damn, just end already. I'm tired of seeing this guy go through the torture. And here we go. You get another awesome, never stops movie. It from beginning to end. It's one of those diehard types where once the action begins, it's woo, let's go. With maybe one chance to breathe in the middle, just a little bit. Otherwise, you're seeing him. He has to break somebody out of a prison. Greatest freaking prison escape movie because in a long time. It's because things go haywire, and instead of just sneaking out, of course, he's beating the shit out of people, shooting people, and just gunplay glory. Do you mind if I scratch my freaking neck without being bitten? Do you mind? Huh? Okay. But absolutely. Have you seen this movie?
No, I've not.
Have you seen the first one?
I think I did. I'm not positive.
Yeah, this is fan-freaking-tastic, man. Absolutely adrenaline. This movie is absolute adrenaline, and it's not the last one of these kind of movies on the on my list tonight, but it is number 4. So there you go, my number 4 film. Let me get these comments that popped up. Samuel Proctor, that's a bold stream title you got there. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're proving that 2023 is the best year in film of all time. Okay.
Well, he's going with the premise of he's going to try and improve it, and we will find out that in fact, no, it is not.
Hey, you know why you would say that? Because Indiana Jones failed, because you knew the Marvels was going to fail. But we had what like I said, I love the term flopbuster. We had that, but all the stuff surrounding that, most of it was pretty damn good. It's just there were some high profile fails, and those movies don't matter. There's failures all the time. I'm telling you, that's what colored it right here.
No, yeah, I mean, difference. You've seen the memes that go around, like showing the cinema marquee. I think like in 1985.
Okay,
like,
okay. I'm gonna crush
movies
this.
That are there. I mean, there are. I mean, you can pick almost any year in the mid 80s.
Here's the thing: you can cherry pick. That's the reason why we remember all those great films in 1984 is because the stuff around it was shit. The reason why we think of all the great films in 1971 is because the other stuff around it was shit. You really truly don't remember all the shit as much as you do those great films. That's true, but I'm bullshitting my way through this, dude. Yes, let's let Jay talk about his number 3.
All right. Well, my number 3 is the most mid movie. Maybe the most mid movie I ever saw was Transformers: Rise of the Beast. And I actually went into this thing somewhat optimistic. I was going to give it a chance. I even blew the big money on it. Went and saw it in 3D IMAX, which cost an arm and a leg. Visually, fine. But what, live action Transformers movie isn't visually fine. But just an average, boring movie. It was more about the humans, more about the kids from Brooklyn than it was about the actual Transformers themselves. And I'm tired of the whole argument. Well, you got to have humans in Transformers movie. How are people going to relate to it? And I'll say this for the last time. The Transformers are humanoid sentient robots. They have human elements. They can carry the human factor of a movie by themselves. Maybe that's just me. I don't know, and I don't care, but the movie was real mid. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay, the reason why they had to go to the humans is because they had that freaking Bupkis Sacker with a big ass eyes doing a freaking Transformer voice through the most of it. What is his name? He bangs all the chicks and it's like, fucking hell.
Oh gosh. He just got that weird tattoo of Hillary Clinton too. Did you see that?
Freaking hell is his name?
Pete Davidson?
Yes,
Davidson. He's in this thing. I forgot. I'm actually up to 133 now. That is, I forgot I saw that film. Holy shit. That's not even on the thing. Let's see. So you're saying last year was better than 1939, dude? I am.
He's lying his ass off. He's acting like the guy that I was arguing with on YouTube comments. So was trying to insist that anime, that most anime is not a 1-to-1 representation of the manga.
All right. So 1939. Excuse me. How many human-like robots were in Gone with the Wind? I rest my case. This year's better. Seriously. Were there any speedsters running through Mr. Smith Goes to Washington? I think not. I've seen that movie many times. No Flash. This year's better. Just saying. Did they race swap anyone from Casablanca? No.
Casablanca is not 39.
I know. Okay, shush. I've got one wrong. Okay, Gunga did. Point being,
if you're gonna play that fast and loose with the facts, I'd argue that Metropolis was probably better than any
okay.
science.
I realized I went, wait a second, that wasn't 39 as soon as I said it, and I was like, wait a second, what was 39? Yeah. Did they race swap anybody in Gunga Din? Did they have somebody going, why? Hey, I'm on the wrong side. No, they didn't. They couldn't. Because of racism, not here. All right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
No, by the way, yeah, I'm going to be doing a series of these movies where I just talk about movies from each year. So anywho, we are on number 3.
Yep.
LK,
So
what do you have?
my number 3 is the only Disney movie that could make my list. And it was also my surprise of the year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is pretty good. This one's pretty
And,
good. Man, that's another one. That's 134.
For those of you not getting the joke, Sound of Freedom was originally produced by 20th Century Fox, which Disney owns. Disney actually shelved this film, and a production group had to buy the rights back from Disney in order to release this film. It is probably the most powerful film that I saw this year. And going to a packed theater the week that it came out, and not your typical theater crowd either. And, by the end of the movie, especially when, you see the end of the movie and then they show the actual footage of, the rescues. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house at the end of this. And it could have been completely exploitive. It could have been just, garbage B-level tier type stuff that you've seen from so many other, fly-by-night, production companies that, base off of Christianity or something, like a Kirk Cameron movie or something like that, or the level of like a Hallmark movie. And it's not that. It's intense. All the acting is fantastic in the movie, and it plays out like a great thriller without any of the expected thriller tropes. It's one of those things where, as I was watching it, I was waiting for a certain character to die, because it's like, okay, if this were a Hollywood movie, this is the point where, to up the stakes, one of the supporting characters would get killed off, from a mistake or something. And it doesn't happen because it follows the true story. It was an amazing film, turned out into an amazing event. All credit in terms of the social marketing they did as well, but it was justified. It was a great film. It'd be nice if it got some award recognition, but of course that's not going to happen.
No.
And if you want to know how successful and how impactful the movie was, go look at all the negative stories that got written up. Once
it's amazing how many people were for child trafficking with this movie.
That start, once people actually started seeing the film, how many negative stories came out about the film, about people involved, and so on. My number 3.
All righty. Let's see. Let me get some comments before I go to my number 3. So let's see. Was there crap surrounding great movies last year? Well, yeah, I just mentioned a couple of them as well, the flopbusters and such. But that's why we can remember a lot of the stuff. We do remember the very bad or the very good. I am, of course, kidding. But the truth is in every year that we might put stuff down, look, even LK, the Resident Black Pill, has found at least 10 movies that were pretty good. So, and at some point in time, somebody's going to say, you know what? this is a great year because they made a lot of remakes of 1980 movies. So also Sound of Freedom then went on to make more money than Indy 5 while costing way less. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And let's see, what else do we have here? We've got Samuel Proctor. Of the 5 new movies I saw last year, Sound of Freedom was my favorite. I liked it too. And you're right. I thought it was going to be kind of like the God Is Not Dead troupe, because they always make Christian films, but they look like expensive TV movies rather than, or cheap cinema, but they're still decent. I will say there are some that are still decent. Not all of them, but there are some.
Well, I mean, I was fearing it was going to be like, that Atlas Shrugged movie, which,
they made for $5 million. Then they tried special effects and all that.
Yeah. Which kills me because I actually like that book, but
yeah. Well, I liked the first 2 movies, but by the time they got to the third one, like half the cast left and their budget was $2.50.
Yeah.
Imagine Hollywood elite pedos giving this film fan. Yeah, it's not happening. All righty, kids. My number 3 was I forget what number for you. I am once again surprised because when we talked about it the first time around, I was harsher on it. But 4 times seen later, you don't watch a movie you don't like over and over and over again. But my number 3 is John Wick 4. I love the. God damn it! Can we get movie posters again instead of Photoshop shit? This is Japan's movie poster for John Wick. That is badass, man. We can't get movie posters like this. You mentioned the action, and look, I had a hard time. The first time we saw it, I had a hard time with the stairs. I do think that you could probably trim a minute or 2 off of every action film, make a shorter and tighter movie. But what scene? Seriously. And in the car chase scene, what would you take out? In the stairwell scene, what would you take out? It's kind of like Mary Poppins is one of my favorite films of all time. And it runs 2 hours 10, I think.
Yeah. You could have taken a dozen of the killings out of the stair scene and at least one of the pause moments.
I don't know. Because it flows so well.
It does, but it's also that sense of it's never ending, and that's not good in a movie.
And that's why you have it at 6 and I have it at 3, because I looked and I went, it's kind of like the laugh scene in Mary Poppins. That's the easiest one to take out, and you would lose nothing in the story. But would you really want to take that scene out? And that's when I started to kind of turn it in my head that, you know what, this movie's better than you're giving it credit for, dude. And look, and for you, I get it. And I'll put it to you this way and see, you can say if I'm close or not.
Yeah.
Every freaking scene is brilliant. Put them together, it's a little too long. But every freaking individual, you can watch any individual as a short movie and just, it's a blast. John Wick is one of the best action franchises, and John Wick 4 is one of the better of entry in the franchise. Number 1 still best, by the way, in my opinion. But there you go. That is my number 3. I'll tell you what, Jay, if you want to start on your number 2, I'm going to open the door for my
sure.
Third. Hold on, let me get rid of the John Wick. There you go. All right, I'll be right back.
Well, I don't have too much to say because my number 2 is your number 3. Okay, Sound of Freedom, and you said it perfectly about everything about that movie. The thing that aggravates me the most is that, leftist shill sites like the Atlantic still try to force the denial that this human trafficking thing is going on. And it's so clear that it's not. It just drives me nuts. So I'm really glad this movie was done. You're right. Unfortunately, most Christian movies are cheesy. No matter what their budget is, they just come off cheesy. They do. This one did not. This one nailed it. It did exactly what it was striving to be, what's really going on. And I thought it did a heck of a job. So hopefully we'll see more like this in the coming years.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully, especially the filmmakers, get more opportunities, to make films, because just structurally and competently, they made a very good film.
Absolutely.
I I would take I'd take those filmmakers over anybody that's been hired recently to do a DC or Marvel movie, for example.
And I don't know about. I think you said your theater was pretty packed when you saw it. Mine was pretty.
Oh
filled.
yeah. It was I would say probably 90% full.
Which one?
Sound
Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
Saw it in the theater. So yeah, no, since you were talking about, they don't make posters like they do anymore. So when I did go see Dead Reckoning, I saw it on IMAX, and the theater, had these, sitting out.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, isn't that kind of a cool poster?
It really is. That's the kind of poster I wish they would make. The that is a good list to make as well. Favorite movie posters. Give me a Vertigo or something. Something like, or even Drew Struzan poster. Oh gosh, I miss Drew Struzan movies. Did you know Del Toro wanted Hellboy and the Fish movie, and every movie he's done, he's asked, I want Struzan. Studios won't give it to him, not for the mass produced.
Yeah. So Samuel, you got to tell us what's awkward.
Yeah, what's awkward? For those who haven't seen it, Sound of Freedom is not a Christian film. It's a film about a guy who, yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, I would say the Christianity, or the religious aspect, just is more of just timeless morality than anything else. But again, at the same time, that is so refreshing to see. Well, and I mean, Mormon is a vein of Christianity or whatever, but just seeing characters with their religion on their sleeve, their belief in God, and the moral clarity of doing the right thing is something you don't see in movies anymore.
What is your number 2 best film of 2020?
My number 2, well, if not for Sound of Freedom, this probably would have been my surprise of the year, because when I first saw the trailer for this and saw a couple of clips, I thought, oh God, this is going to be awful. Or not the trailer, and I saw some clips from it and heard about it. It was like, oh God, this is going to be awful. And then I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh wow, this actually looks like it might be pretty good. And then started hearing, buzz from before it came out, saying like, hey, wow, this is going to be a really, really good movie. And so my number 2 is The Iron Claw. It is again another amazing family movie, but they nailed so much of the wrestling accurately, and that's what really kind of just makes it a joy. It's a bit of a hard watch, especially if you know the story of the Von Erich family and the tragedy that befell that family. But it is done so well, and again, we have another story here where you have a father, and they could have easily fallen into the bad dad trope. This is an evil guy who just drove his kids to, into the ground, horrible guy. But he's not portrayed that way. Yes, he, ultimately pushed his sons too far because he was kind of living through them, because he wanted them to achieve in wrestling what he was unable to do, because he felt like he had been cheated out of it by the powers that be. But you could still tell that he loved his sons. He just pushed too hard. And again, you talk about award season. Zac Efron as Kevin Von Erich, I mean, is amazing. I
agree with you on this one.
Zac Efron had that kind of range, and I know some people, both jokingly but honestly too, that when you first saw the stills that came out of how he had transformed himself, and if there's a bodysuit in there or whatever, but with the haircut, said, oh, he could play He-Man in a He-Man movie.
It's true.
Because he was that ripped with the kind of the bull haircut and everything. He looked like He-Man, and if they could put together a good dramatic type script, I'd be 100% for it after seeing him portrayed in this. But
this is another one I forgot I watched, And you're right. It is every bit as good as you're saying. I still don't think it would have made my top 20, but
No, but
I've seen more movies than you.
if there were justice in the Academy, I could definitely see Zac Efron getting a Best Actor nod, and Holt McElhaney, who plays the patriarch Fritz von Erich, should definitely be up for supporting actor nod.
I can see that.
So yeah, it was an amazing film.
Yeah, I liked it too. I forgot about it, but yeah, I would definitely have it somewhere, maybe in my top 20. I don't know. It was really good. I have to look over it again. All righty. What are we going to? We're at number 2. All righty. You talked about it before. I'll talk about it now. Dead Reckoning is a very intelligent action film. It's not one of those like Extraction or John Wick. It actually uses its brain and expects you to use yours as well, even though it's a very almost simplistic story. This is the rise of the Terminators here with the AI and everything. I was like, wait a second, you're fighting Skynet. That's the main villain, and I just was absolutely thrilled with it. I thought the car chases were really good. The one where Mantis is chasing him throughout Europe. He's in that little freaking tiny car and everything. It's a lot of fun. I think that's one of the best things about this version. This movie let Ethan have a sense of humor that was not as present in the other films. Not missing, just not as present in the other films. The action set pieces are good. The story is actually good. The villain being what it is, not who it is, but what it is, was also done very well. I did have one problem. I thought if she was a good fighter, the Mantis character, if she was actually as good as she was supposed to be, she's being portrayed as, she would know not to fight a man in a tiny little alleyway because she has nowhere to go.
There's some leaps of logic that you have to take with this, and it kind of comes down to your enjoyment's going to be based on if you accept some of the premises of the story and some of the logic leaps, or like that shouldn't happen, or how did that get done.
But this was my number one movie.
Then, you'll have a great time.
This was my number one movie up until about a month or so ago.
Okay. I
have a feeling you and I have the same number one. Let me get some comments, and then we'll talk about Jay's. Okay, let's see. It's accurate to call it a morality play, but it's not a Christian movie nor a religious one. Still talking about Sound of Freedom. It's about a dude stopping evil because he's a hero. Jay is saying, actually, Ash is right in his correction. Also, Sound of Freedom was made by Angel Studios, who is run by Mormons and questionable ones at that. So there you go. All righty. Jay, what's your number one film of the year?
Well, I'm going to stick with the LK connection here. My number one is Iron Claw. And
all right.
And for somebody who grew up in Dallas during the Von Erich phenomenon, I was a kid, so I was completely wrapped up into that. I came in there with pretty high standards, and I thought that they matched it. They did a heck of a job, and they captured the emotion. That was the important thing. Of course, it's Hollywood. They're going to take liberties with the story, and the only thing that Kevin Von Erich had a problem with was the portrayal of Fritz, but I understand why they had to do it. They had to really drive home the bad side of Fritz, but there was a lot more to that man than just that side of him. He was, I know quite a bit about him, and I've never heard that he was hard up that he never won the world title when he, after he got through wrestling. But, so they might have embellished that a little bit. The kid that played Mike, and I can't think of his name right now, really nailed it. Mike was probably the most. They were all tragic deaths, but Mike's had a lot more tragedy to it because he was a good musician. He didn't want to wrestle. He felt obligated to do it after David died, and kind of forced himself. And whether he was pushed in by his father or not is nobody knows for sure. Kevin says no. but who knows? He did feel obligated. He hurt his shoulder in a match, went in for surgery, and then got toxic shock syndrome, which fried his brain, and not to the point where he was a vegetable, but it basically gave him a lobotomy, and that's what drove him to go commit suicide. I mean, it was just a real tragic story. They also were not able to put the youngest brother, who was also another
I was about to ask you, how did you feel about the fact they cut one brother out?
Well, I thought, this kind of made me mad because they said, well, we wanted to make an amalgam character of Mike and Chris with our version of Mike, and they lied about that. That was 100% Mike. Chris was also tragic. Chris was born with kidney problems, severe kidney disease, and had to be put on medication right away. And that medication stunted his growth, hurt his puberty. Where his other brothers were well into the 6'2", 6'3" range. He maxed out at 5'5". He had the heart to be a wrestler, but he just did not have the physique for it. And he took his own life after he felt, and he got involved with drugs too, but he took his own life after realizing he couldn't live up to the name and all that. But I understand they had to cut time. They had to edit it down for the movie. I wish they would have made an amalgam, a compilation character of Mike being Mike and Chris, and not just claim that they did it. But all that aside, heck of a movie. For the first time ever, I've been really impressed with Zac Efron. You guys are right. He absolutely showed his range and nailed it as Kevin.
Yeah. Well, I'll recommend Jay. I don't know if you have seen it. I did, after seeing it, because I was curious about a couple things. I did stumble across an interview with the director on it. And after reading that, I was kind of more impressed, at least, with some of the integrity, at least, from that perspective, with the director, because he talked about kind of like the main reason why Chris wasn't in there was it would have just been too much tragedy.
Yeah. And you know what? He's right. It would have been, because Chris was not the last one. He was the second to last one. Carrie was the last one still. But and him being the youngest, and they would have had to cover his kidney problems and his health issues, and that would have been a downer. And then the fact that he, took his own life on top of all that, that would have been too much for the audience, I think.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too. You said that one thing that Kevin didn't like was necessarily the portrayal of Fritz. At least to me, I mean, it didn't come off as him being evil or bad. I mean, that's why I mentioned it was just that he was driven, and he was just so driven to achieve that he just pushed his sons.
Right. Well, he was running that company. He took over big time wrestling from Macklemore, and when his sons and he was already the biggest draw in there. Fritz was himself. And then when the boys got involved, and the way I don't think none of them saw that coming. I think they felt like they could have some success, but they did not expect it to blow up into that phenomenon level that it did. And what do you do? How do you handle that? Well, they didn't know how to handle it. They did the best they could with it. So
I thinking back on the movie, and the only time where I would say that he comes off really bad is the latter portion of the movie where Kevin has taken over the business, and is talking about, well, hey, I need to sell it because I need to provide for my family, and that scene when Carrie comes over with his girlfriend, and the way Dad just is completely blowing off Kevin, that I can see.
Now the one thing
I just want to ask you, have you watched the Dark Side of the Ring, Von Erich?
Oh yes.
All right. Sorry to cut it off. I'm wondering, because I have a feeling you and I have the same number one. Are we going to be taking a trip to Japan, sir?
I believe we are.
We are. So the number one movie of 2023, according to both the Paula and the Simon of the group, what would you call? What would I be? The white pill, the white pill, and the black pill,
the black pill and the red pill. Yeah,
there you go, the red pill. Okay, the number one movie of the year, ladies and gentlemen, is Godzilla -1.
Yeah, I was just absolutely blown away. I was looking forward to it when I saw the trailer. I was like, oh wow, this looks like a really cool Godzilla movie. I have loved the Toho movies. I love the fact it being set, in the period of the post-war, I did not expect the human side of this movie. And
it's never been the human side.
No.
Never.
But that is what just sets this movie over the top. And compare it to Godzilla King of the Monsters, on the US side. What was the first one in this whole Monarch series? Was it Godzilla and then Godzilla King of the Monsters?
Yeah, it was Godzilla, and then King Kong.
Okay.
Godzilla King of the Monsters, and then
where again,
King Kong versus.
They've tried to put the human element into it, especially Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is I enjoy a lot, but the movie just grinds to a screeching halt when you get to Millie Bobby Brown and the what's her name mom that is screwing everything up.
Okay, so I actually do like the Monarch version. I like the King Kong movie, but I'll tell you, here is the biggest problem. They want the humans to be the real villains. This doesn't. Godzilla's destroying everything. Godzilla needs to be stopped. They're like, oh, well, you're an environmentalist villain, blah, 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 yada. No, you're just adding shit on. You got a big-ass monster destroying things. That's what you do. And hey, you need a big-ass monster to come and stop them? Bring in King Kong. It's not that hard, people. I still like the Monarch stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this is freaking amazing. I like superhero movies.
Yeah.
But let's face it, The Marvels is a superhero movie, and so is Captain America Winter Soldier. You just have some that are better than others. And this one, I got to tell you, I thought the movie was a little manipulative towards the end, and I was A-okay with being manipulated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the whole thing, oh my gosh, spoiler alert is spoiling right now. And I was like, oh my God, that is so stupid.
Yeah, we're talking about the same last scenes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I could have done without that.
Like I said, it was but I was A-okay with it. I was A-okay with it.
Oh yeah. No, I was
is such a great story.
Yeah, I was fine with it. But yeah, I mean, it's brilliantly shot. The effects are just fantastic. As you say, I mean, here, Godzilla is vicious. He is the evil one. He is by far the villain because he is terrorizing everything. There's no explanation for why he is suddenly, risen up and destroying the cities. But the post-war Japan piece, the anti-war message, which is there, but it's not hammered over your head in terms of who is bad and who is wrong. It just is. It's just an amazing film accomplishment. And again, I know some people have talked about, and I don't know what the final budget cost was. It was either like 15 million or 35 million, something like that. But you look at what got put on the screen here. This is the difference between just a hired hand director like a Nia Costa or anybody that Kevin Feige has gotten for recent Marvel movies, and a visionary who understands material and has real experience. Because one of the things is that the director here actually supervised and did the visual effects because that was his background. That's where he came from. And so he had the hand in all of the visual effects in this movie. And it's obvious. You can tell because of how well they mesh with the movie and mesh with the story and just the care. And it's everything you don't see in, right now, at least the modern U.S. blockbusters. And it's honestly why I have started gravitating more towards foreign films.
I, by the way, a long time ago, kind of swore off European films. They were so everywhere in the 90s, and it's just, God, you're pretentious as seriously. Occasionally something will break through the armor. This is it once again. Yeah, you got Godzilla the way he should be. You don't need a whole bunch from the humans, yet they gave it to us. You got a whole bunch of people who were feeling all sorts of different ways about the war, and it's something that they had lost the war, and yet they're talking about how, well, the Americans are here cleaning up and blah, blah, blah. And they weren't talking about it as go get them or anything like that. It's just, okay, the war's over. We understand. And maybe they could actually help us with this big lizard problem we have. You never do see that, by the way. The Americans show up and kind of go, or in the background or behind the scenes, and kind of give them a nudge, and they know what to do.
Honestly, I don't even recall that. I know, you know,
it was towards the end. When the old scientist was telling his plan, he brings up the Americans a couple of times where they had this and they had that, but you know, they're not going to step in or anything like that. And I think the equipment they gave them was for different purposes. Like they didn't actually know about that thing. So maybe I was wrong on that one, but it was, I just, you talk about special effects being on there. I'm okay with this kind of thing. If you can if you're going to do a superhero movie, yeah, keep it around the 100, 150 and do a movie like this. Do a movie where maybe you let the TV actors come on in, you pay them TV actor money and you put it in the special effects, and you don't try to overdo the CGI where you're going to get shit effects for it. Look at what they did here.
Let me ask you this, because you've seen the Marvels, and you saw this, and we know now the Marvels budget was somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 to $250 million.
Yeah, they did not have, by the way.
Where do you think that money went? Because it sure as hell didn't go on the screen.
Straight up, probably about 20 to 25 million of it went to Brie Larson. Then you know yeah, you're right. And well, a lot of it, actually, I could tell you straight up, a lot of it went to holding fees. They needed to make the money, but they went through the pandemic thing. They needed to make sure Brie Larson was ready to do reshoots and all that kind of stuff. Same with the other actors. So they got to pay what's called a holding fee. So when they call, the others beck, you know, they got to come in and do that. A lot of stuff was probably done with that across the board. Everybody involved needed to come back at a moment's notice, so they would have to pay that.
Yeah,
but still, you're right. You see every dollar on this one.
Yeah. Well, and you've got this particular poster up, and unfortunately, we're not going to get this in the theaters here, as far as I know, in the U.S. because of contractual rules between whoever does the Monarch universe and Toho. But this is a black and white edition that is coming out in Japan next week.
Wow.
And I'm really hoping that we will get a special edition physical version here that has both the color and the black and white versions of the film on it.
I just thought this was the best looking. So
yeah, it's definitely probably the next 4K Blu-ray that's going to be on my buy list.
I agree. I've got to own this one as well. But there you go, gang. You want to do a what do you call it? Want to do a wrap up of your? I'm gonna throw one other thing out there too, because these weren't necessarily films that were in 2023, but one of the things I did discover in 2023, as we're talking about, when the flopbusters and the superhero movies are failing to meet expectations and have become what they are, you go and start looking at other things. And I honestly can't remember if it was the end of 2022 or early 2023 when I saw it. But of course, I mean, one of the movies that really made an impression was seeing the Indian action film RRR. And if you haven't seen it, go see it. It has some just incredible, insane action set pieces. I mean, they're superheroes without being called superheroes the way that, some of the moves that they do. But that several months ago got me looking. I forget exactly. Oh, I know what it was. So when all the Marvel stuff was coming out, I happened to see an article that said in India, the Marvels was getting pushed off the IMAX screens out of there in favor of this Indian spy movie that was part of this action spy universe. I was like, that sounds interesting. And I went to look it up, and it's a company YRF, and it's their YRF spy universe is what they call it. And currently there's 4
I think actually the 5th film is the one that came out this year, but there's like 2 more ready to come out, and it's become this huge thing in India. And I watched the first one this year, and it was fantastic. It was one of the better films I saw this year. Ek Tiger, and it's everything that we've love in action films, over the top stuff. Just a badass guy. It's kind of a Mr. and Mrs. Smith story in terms of he's kind of the top spy operative in India. He's sent on this mission to kind of get in the good graces of this doctor to find out story. He winds up falling in love with this girl who is the assistant to the doctor. Of course, come to find out, she's actually an operative for Pakistan. And of course, if you know anything about geopolitics, India and Pakistan are pretty much mortal enemies. But basically, kind of the love is real, and so you have this situation where the top spy in India is falling in love with one of the top spies in Pakistan, and at a certain point, they basically try to run away. It's great, and then you have the second movie where they're together. They've had a child, and they get pulled back in because their help is needed. And then the third one is a completely different group of people, but it ties in because there are some supporting characters that are the same, but they're all worth checking out. You can find them on pretty much Amazon Prime or Netflix. But Ek Tiger 2, War is the third one. And so there was one that came out this year that's is it Padawan or Padan, I think it is. But yeah,
it was Padan, yeah.
Between Japan, Hong Kong action films, Korea, there are so many alternatives out there if you're looking for action adventure films, and the superhero movies aren't doing it for you.
I'm going to send something out there. I know a lot of people are disappointed with Star Wars. I don't see why. I haven't been disappointed in Star Wars since the last movie. What was it? It was Rey something or other.
The rise, they call it the Rise of Skywalker, but it's
I haven't been disappointed in Star Wars since, because I don't why. Okay, I heard Andor is good. I'm lying, by the way. I saw Ben Kenobi. I saw a first episode of Ahsoka. The thing is there's actually something good associated with Star Wars out there. It's called A Disturbance in the Force. Try to find it. I had to sail the high seas, but I found it and I watched it. It is all about, it's a documentary about the Star Wars holiday special. And it is so entertaining. The fact that it is so bad, there's so many people who love this because it is so bad. And they interview a lot of people like this. Of course, George, he hates it. There's a scene even with not Michael Favreau. What is his name? Jon Favreau. He is he's talking, showing him the Mandalorian, and Mandalorian has the gun from the animated sequence. Boba Fett has it, and he goes, did you notice the gun? Huh? It's canon, right? And George went, no. He was just so pissed that anything from the holiday special made it in to canon Star Wars. But people are like, hey, you know what? It is great. And there's actual figures out there that people make in the whole 9 yards. But there's a joy to it. And that's something that's been missing from modern Star Wars. So if you get a chance, once again, like I said, I had to fly the cross and bones and sail the high seas to get to it. Well, but I am so freaking glad I did.
If anybody wants to get me a late Christmas present, they can give me links to the 4K enhanced editions.
By the way, Amazon Prime are selling them. No.
No.
No, I realized you're talking about something different. Yep.
No.
All right.
These are where basically fans have taken negatives from the original movies and upscaled them.
Okay, so recap your top 10, sir.
All right, my top 10. Number 10 was Attack of the Dock, which is a documentary about the G4 network and Attack of the Show. Number 9 is the King Mutiny Court Martial, starring Kiefer Sutherland, that was on Showtime. Number 8 is Operation Fortune. Number 7 is Totally Killer, an 80s or a 80s time travel slasher movie that's on Amazon Prime. Number 6 is John Wick 4. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 was number 5. Asteroid City, number 4. Sound of Freedom, number 3. The Iron Claw, number 2. And Godzilla -1 is number 1.
All righty. Jay, you want to recap your 3?
Yeah. Number 3, Transformers Rise of the Beast. The middest of the mid movies ever. Number 2 would be Sound of Freedom. Wonderful, powerful movie. And number 1, The Iron Claw.
All righty. And my top 10 were Blackberry, which I believe is streaming on HBO Max now. And then I had Dream Scenarios starring Nicolas Cage, and freaking incredible movie this. Oppenheimer, you've seen it. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, once again, you've seen it. The live play of Spirited Away, it was a Fathom event. Absolutely entertaining. If you can find, oh, by the way, I do know you can find it if you do sail as high seas. Let's see. We had Killers of the Flower Moon, directed by Martin Scorsese. And then Extraction 2, starring Chris Hemsworth. John Wick 4, and Mission Impossible 3. And finally, number 1 movie of 2023 was Godzilla -1. A no-brainer. It really was absolutely fantastic.
I mean, I will say I did debate back and forth if it was going to be Godzilla -1 or the Iron Claw. But being, kind of the action fan that I am, I went with Godzilla -1.
For me, it was, what am I going to watch the most? What am I going to put on? Like, I'm going to buy my top 10, but what am I going to put on the most? Except for Killers of the Flower. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah.
But there you go, guys. Hey, what's up?
Yeah. So I just wanted to say, Ash, be really careful with those editions, especially the True Lies 4K. Go do a little bit of research, because I know there are some people that are saying there's some serious issues with how they did that movie, and so unfortunately, it looks like we didn't get a great 4K version of it. And I know too, you made a great point in terms of, big budget film directing is absolutely a skill. And again, it's another thing of shame on Kevin Feige, because they aren't developing anybody who has that skill with the MCU movies. And I mean, Nia DaCosta first kind of talked around it, and then I think was more blatantly open about it in terms of, what you're seeing. And I think this applies for Disney, and I think this is exactly what's going to happen with that filmmaker, whose name I don't even bother trying to pronounce, is at best she's going to shoot the talking scenes, and everything else is going to be done by a second or third director or visual effects director, and it's going to look disjointed. And I wonder if she actually has really truly directed anything. When I hear her, she sounds like a bully, and I can totally imagine her just being a director in name only. That I seriously doubt she has ever framed a shot in her life. So, we'll see. But yeah, big budget film directing is absolutely a skill, and a lot of your good budget directors started out in the hands-on, in the nuts and bolts side. Wasn't just some, assistant PA and then suddenly got a movie thrust upon him. You mentioned James Cameron, him doing all the effects work and what have you for Roger Corman is a great example of somebody.
There you go. All righty, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. We ran a little bit over the hour and a half that I was hoping to get to, but there you go.
There's 10 minutes you can cut out of it.
There you go. Yep. All righty. Once again, thanks a lot. Tomorrow, the worst list. At the very least, join me for commentary. I'm sure I've got something for you to talk about on the worst list. Although I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those people who just bitch about the big movies. I've got some movies that really, truly deserve to be on that list, not just because they were the flop buster. All righty, but yeah, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. Don't forget to do all the clicking, liking, sharing, and go on over to Ko-Fi. Drop $1 in the till. Like, thank everybody who's already done that. To everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching. Have a good night.
Later.
Everybody.